Welcome to the Boss Auto Show. Buying or selling your vehicle during the pandemic is certainly different, but it doesn't have to be complicated. Owner of Boss Auto Sales in Quincy, Paul Hu, has years of experience, knowledge, and stories to share with you. Find out what the local car market is like and what you can do to help secure yourself the best deals. Join in on Paul's discussion with our moderator, Gloris Liu.
Good afternoon. I'm your moderator for the Boss Auto Show today, Gloris Liu. We have a very special guest today, the used vehicle sales manager of Boss Auto, Charlie Zeltner. He'll be answering questions for us over the next 45 minutes or so about trading in used cars and everything related that we can think of. If you would like to ask a question, please call in and speak to Charlie directly. Dial 781-837-4900. Again, it's 781-837-4900. It's a very beautiful day outside, Charlie. Thank you for coming in.
My pleasure. Route 3 was very interesting, but made it with no problem, and it is a gorgeous day.
Yes. So, Charlie, it's your first time here on the show, and it's also our second episode of the show this week. Do you want to introduce more about yourself and how did you get into the car business?
Sure, I'll be more than happy to. Again, Charlie Zeltner, my wife and I live in Franklin, Massachusetts. Very proud to be with Paul and the rest of the staff for 3 years. Back in the good old days, I went to my undergrad and grad work at the University of Chicago. Right out of school, I started working for corporate General Electric, and loved what I was doing, but I've always had a passion ever since I was a kid, like 3 years old, for cars. And after about 3.5 years, a couple of things kind of came together, and I started in the car business in Connecticut and never looked back. And that was in the late 80s, actually. And I got to see from then to now what a difference, what a change. It's such a vibrant business.
Wow, that's really good to hear. And it's really great to have turn your passion into a job. You said you love the car since you are a boy, and you actually be in the car business for 10 years, 20 years?
No, it's 30 plus years. Wow. Actually. Last December I had my 60th birthday.
Wow.
I still think I'm 25.
Happy belated birthday.
Well, thank you. I'm coming up on another one really soon, though. So.
Wow. So do you have some experience to share with us? What are we talking about today?
Sure. Absolutely. One of the topics I know that we wanted to talk about was trade-ins.
It's your area.
Yeah, that's what I do. That's 30-40% of what I do. How does why trade in a car? How to trade in a car? When to sell it privately? When to sell it to a dealer? Trade-in is simply you are selling a car to another party, another individual. If you're doing the Craigslist thing or whatever, or your next door neighbor, or you're trading it into a dealership, okay? Obviously, in the Craigslist scenario, you're selling it directly. When you trade it into a dealer, you're selling it to the dealer. The dealer's buying that car from you. There are a couple of things that make it interesting, though, all right? In the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and it seems very, very few people know this, when you sell a car privately, you have to guarantee, absolutely positively, that is a safe motor vehicle. That is to say that it will take a state safety inspection and emissions inspection. So what happens, let's say you sell it with an emissions sticker, an emissions inspection that's failed. Your obligation to the customer that purchased it, if you're selling it privately, is you don't have to fix it. You could if you choose to, but if the person who bought it from you comes back to you, you have to refund his money. That's the only state in the union that has that rule. Now, when you trade it into a dealer, it's very interesting. That becomes an as-is sale. And what that means is, as soon as the dealer accepts it and the deal is completed, the dealer has no recourse against you. So, obviously you can see that when you trade it into a dealer, it's a lot safer for you, because
Definitely.
who the heck wants to, meet somebody for a $20,000 car? Privately, is it going to be cash? Is it a check, or God knows what? But when you trade it into a dealer, the dealer takes care of all of that.
And you are done.
And you're done. Okay, now, so you have to make the decision. Do you want to go down the path of a private sale with all the issues that could happen and potentially make more money? There's no question about that. Or be done with it and just trade it into a dealer. Now, let's move on just a little bit more. When you trade in a car to a dealer and you buy another car, there's something called a sales tax trade credit. So let's say you trade in a car and it's worth $20,000. You're going to save sales tax at 6.25% on $20,000. Obviously, I don't have a calculator in front of me, but let's call that, $1,300. So that $20,000 became 21 and change, all right? So now you're narrowing the gap, all right? Put all that aside, the safety and security versus the potential slight less amount of money, that type of thing. When you look to trade in a car, how do you know that is the value of the car? Okay, that's always been a mystery. Value of a car, whether you're buying or selling, is what somebody's willing to pay at a certain point in time for that piece of merchandise, whether it be a car, a purse, a house, whatever. Okay. Now, there are tons of resources out there, obviously, Kelley Blue Book, cars.com, and the list goes on and on. And if you do everything accurately, you should come to a number that is similar. All right. Now, a dealer buys a car at wholesale because the dealer has to recondition it, has to guarantee it, has to merchandise it, has to keep the lights on at the dealership. Okay, so that's the wholesale value. What I tell customers is I always like seeing the car because I am writing the check for the dealership buying that car.
Yes.
I always want to buy cars, okay? Now, when it's done over the telephone, I can't see it, I can't touch it, I can't smell it, okay? So what I have to be is cautious. But if I tell you too low, I'll never see you in the store. And if I tell you too much over the phone or the internet, then we're going to have, obviously, a little teeth gnashing when you come on in. So the intent is to be as honest as possible. I want to be able to give you that amount of money. As a matter of fact, we just had a client that came in who was trading in a 2013 Ford Explorer, okay? And he wanted, just doing this off the top of my head, between $9,500 and $10,000 for the vehicle, okay? And my books are saying $8,500 to $9,000. And he's telling me it's in beautiful condition. I've heard that a million times before. And he brought the car in. And rarely in my entire career have I seen a car in that condition. Interestingly enough, the car was worth $10,500, and I gave him the $10,500 for the car, all right, because it was worth that. I will always pay what a car is worth, okay? Not higher, not lower. A car
Just
is
the
worth
honest price.
Right. That's important. I'm glad you brought that up. It is the honest and fair price. We're in business to make a profit, but one thing that I always tell everybody that I work with: do the right thing. Be honest. Operate with integrity. If a customer has a question and you don't know, the answer is, I don't know. So that way we expect the same thing in return. One of the things that comes up from time to time is how do I know that somebody's telling me the truth?
Truth, right.
Okay. It's very, very interesting. Yeah, Carfax, for example, I only use that primarily for registration data. How many owners does it has? Because that's legal fact. I do not use it for crash data. A crash might be in it. There's no question about that. But I would say, from my experience, that more than half the time, cars have been involved in crashes that have not been reported to Carfax, right? Very few people know that. So how do you know? Well, there are a number of different ways of knowing. One thing that we do is, now this is like going to a doctor or an expert. If you, God forbid, need surgery, you want to go to the best. Not patting myself on the back, but it'd be very difficult to sneak something by me just for sheer years of experience and making the mistakes. We have some very, very fancy scientific tools, but the most important thing that I use are my eyes and my nose. Interestingly enough, eyes, that will tell me, because the way cars are manufactured, and they have been for the past 20, 25 years, they're assembled primarily and painted primarily by robots, right, with very, very strict tolerances. So without getting too technical about it, if you look at one side of the car, it should have the same body gaps, you know, between the fender and the door and all that kind of stuff as the other side. If they're off a little bit, that's a big telltale sign that the car has been damaged. Paint, all right, paint. Every year I go through my eye exam and I change the lenses in my glasses to be 100% sure that what I'm looking at is accurate. I am not the best when it comes to color. My wife picks all the colors at home. I don't go near that, but I can tell when there's a color difference in a panel. Again, because these are all painted by computer, they're all the same. And just in case I have a question, I have a very, very expensive scientific instrument that, interestingly enough, measures something called paint depth. Okay, and it measures in thousandths of an inch. It's a very, very accurate thing. So we know what the paint depth of a Toyota is. For example, a Toyota should have a paint depth of about 3.5 mils.
Well, that's very interesting to know. And Charlie, we will continue our discussion of, sharing more about your experience and what is trade-in to our audience. So after a short break, we'll be right back here on 95.9 WATD.
So, you're in the market for a pre-owned vehicle? Buy it at Boss Auto. Boss Auto in Quincy has a fantastic selection of pre-owned vehicles, both luxury and economic. BMW, Audi, and Porsche, Honda, Toyota, and Nissan. They search nationally for the very best vehicles so you can drive home with the best value. And right now at Boss Auto, you can get behind the wheel of the pre-owned vehicle of your dreams with affordable finance rates, maybe even lower than 3. That's right, meaning just a few $100 a month. Visit bossautogroup.com, BOSAutogroup.com, and check out their huge selection of pre-owned vehicles. They'll buy your car, take your trade, or even work on consignment. Boss Auto has an incredible lineup of domestic and foreign vehicles, even rare finds like Ferrari. Search online and see for yourself why you should book your next car buying experience with Boss Auto. They're open for appointments Monday through Friday, 10 to 7. Book yours at bossautogroup.com, bossautogroup.com.
Welcome back. I'm your moderator, Gloris Liu. Here on the show, we have a very special guest today, Charlie Zeltner, and we will continue our discussion about trading cars. And please call in if you have any question. So Charlie, I might, as a novice in the car business, I have to ask you a very simple question.
Please.
What are the perks, compared to buying a new car or, buying a friend's car, compared to like trading cars to a dealership?
Oh, okay, sure, absolutely. Obviously, people buy cars every day because the city bus typically doesn't go by your house. What I'm hearing, the question is what is potentially the best value, okay?
Yes.
The best value depends on what the customer's needs are, not wants, but needs. We have, by way of example, a lot of clients coming in for a first car for their either high school or college children, and that's a different type of car than somebody who wants, going through a second childhood with a sports car. My recommendation typically is do your research, but then reach out to a professional.
Yes.
You have to buy a car from a dealer that you like, trust, and respect, because it's just like a doctor. It's just like your lawyer, just like your accountant. You are spending a lot of money.
Yes.
And people often ask me, Charlie, what's a lot of money? Okay. It's not my money. Okay. It's what you think is a lot of money. And my job is to get the best value for your money. I have purchased new cars in my life. Anybody, of course, likes a new car, but I don't see the value in it from the standpoint of total cost of ownership. I just acquired a Jeep, dream car of mine, Grand Cherokee, top of the line, and it was 3 years old, and it had about 39,000 miles on it in beautiful condition, and it was literally slightly less than half price of a new one, sticker price, okay? That seems to me a great value. And when people say, well, at 39,000 miles, it's out of a manufacturer's warranty, I said, you're absolutely right. And that's why an extended service plan makes a heck of a lot of sense, because now I am covered to 125,000 miles with basically an identical warranty. So I'm saving a lot of money. Buying a car from a friend, a neighbor, Craigslist. Went through this actually with my mom and her friend, okay? And I walked her through the whole procedure. It was, her friend didn't have a lot of money, but needed to replace the car. So we settled. She found an '06 Subaru Legacy, okay, with 130,000 miles on it, the 4-cylinder engine. There are two potentially very, very serious things that you have to watch out for. One is a head gasket that could be leaking or blown, and if the timing belt hasn't been changed, you could destroy the engine. So I told her, best thing you can do, if the person selling it permits you to do so, take it to a Subaru dealership. Spend $150 for something called a PPI, or pre-purchase inspection. All right? This is a completely independent inspection, and they will list everything potentially wrong or in the future you might have to address. Thank goodness it sailed through with no problem. Okay? Ultimately, and again, without getting into it, interestingly enough, this car in '06 with 130,000 miles on it had a loan on it.
Wow.
So I was able to catch it and tell her, do not give this lady any money until she has the title in her hand, okay? Ultimately, it worked out. She bought the car. She's had it for a couple of months, and it's working out perfectly. One of the things that I enjoy doing for people in the community, this has happened a few times, and I'll be more than happy to help. If you have identified a car and you want to give us a call or an email, I'll be more than happy to do the research for you. You can pick my brain a little bit. If I know of anything that might be significant that, for that year, make, and model, that would typically go wrong with the car. But again, take your time. Ask questions. If you don't understand the answer to the question, ask it again. If I love it when a customer says, well, Charlie, I think I understand, but could you explain it again? Oh, please, I'll be more than happy to, because that's what makes the transaction work. That's what makes a happy client in the future. That's what gives us repeat business. I am never too busy to answer a client's question.
It's always good to ask, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. It's very important.
Yes, thank you so much, Charlie, for sharing all this. And it seems like if you purchase a new car on your own and not consulting to a professional, it's very exhausting. And if you come to Boss Auto, like office like this, you will have the help from professional like you, and you will help customers, trading in the car and picking the best option for them. And it's really good to know.
Oh yeah.
Always ask and reach to professional.
Please.
when you want to purchase a new car. So I actually have a new question, like what if I have a really not old, like 2005 or so car, like you mentioned, can I still trade in and get money?
Oh gosh, yes. Oh my goodness, absolutely. Every car has value, okay? We've done cars that have a value of $10 to $100. You know, it doesn't run, it's a wreck and all that kind of stuff, all the way up to older cars that, quite frankly, are classic or exotics that have, you know, values of $250,000, $500,000. But what I think that you're saying is, let's take as a matter of fact, we just put the transaction together, a 2008 Honda Civic with a 6-cylinder engine. Okay. Now, the car had
conditions.
Oh yeah, the condition was amazing, and the car had 98,000 miles on it. Now, it's amazing condition because it's spent its entire life in Tennessee.
Wow.
Okay. Two other things that make it a very special. It's an EX with leather. That means it has a sunroof. It has leather. Okay.
Wow.
Two other things, and this is where it's worth a lot of money. It's a 6-cylinder engine, which is very rare, and it's a stick shift on top of it. Now, stick shift, who the hell buys a stick shift car? Okay. There are people like me that would die for a car like that. It's a very slim part of the market, but that's where the knowledge of the market is very, very important. And again, it goes back to what we said earlier, the honesty. Now, I could have a 4-cylinder automatic that's been in this area for its life with the same mileage on it, and it might be worth $700. This car's worth $3,500, okay? So yes, if there's any life left in it and it's running, let's take a look at it. Bounce it off of me. You might be sitting on something that is more valuable than you thought, and we're going to give you the right amount of money for it, okay? And I can prove, I've been challenged before, where did you come up with that information? And I will invite the customer right into my office and say, let's take a look at everything. And you can see the light bulb going off over their head saying, yes, now I understand.
Wow, that's really good to hear. And Charlie, since you mentioned, like, if someone challenge you on, how you're assessing a car, you invite the customer into the office and, see in person and, just go through everything. But right now, with the COVID-19, if someone out of the state, not in Boston, want to go in the office but could not, what are some new methods?
Sure, absolutely. Paul was kind enough to buy me a scanner about 3 months ago. So what we can do is, I've done this before, let me get the documentation together. Sir, ma'am, I'll email it over to you, and when you receive it, can I call you and we'll talk through each page, and this is what makes sense, okay? Again, what I hate at dealerships, some dealerships, is the people, if you will, not hiding behind the curtain, but working behind the curtain. It's not the full transparency, okay? You never meet the person that appraised your car, okay? You never meet the person who was working on your credit application.
Not much transparency.
No, not at all. And what we try to do, as much as we can, is make each step transparent. And, a transaction from start to finish takes anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half if everything goes correctly. People have to understand that it takes time, because a mistake can be, you're going to start from scratch at that point, because we have to redo everything. So step by step, ask the questions, understand everything that's going on, and then everything becomes, and you get an education, and from that point forward, you know what questions to ask.
Reach to Charlie.
There you go. Yeah.
Yes, and it's such a difficult and unique time of our life now because of COVID. Do you think it's a good time to trade in your car?
Yes. It was very, very interesting what happened. When everything was basically shut down on March 24th, they also shut down manufacturing around the world of new cars. So what had happened was people that needed cars, the 2020 models were sold out, and people turned to used cars. Now, when they did that, it actually destabilized the market because there were no cars that were coming in on trades on new cars. Therefore, there was nothing coming in. So you've got a very constrained market. Prices shot through the roof.
Wow.
There are econometrics that I follow very, very carefully, and in the history of the car business, going all the way back to when cars were actually horses, the value of a used car was never higher than it was back in May, June, and July. It's starting to come down a little bit right now, but they are still just amazingly high in value.
So you say it's a good time?
It's still a very, very good time. Your trade-in should be worth, I mean, for what it is, and assuming it's in good condition, it's still worth a lot of money. Absolutely.
So right now, you are very busy every week.
Oh, yes.
In office, can you walk through some process of, assessing a used car coming in, and what are some steps you usually do to assess and give appraisal price for
Sure. We have subscriptions to some very expensive, very proprietary software that gives me a pinpoint on the market on the year, make, and model of the vehicle with the trim level. Take a look at that and match that number up to an approximate retail, all right, to see what the differential is. Then I start adding in any kind of reconditioning expenses, profit, and all that to see what makes sense. In other words, how long is it going to take me to sell this car? That's really how it's done, but it's not done exclusively by, books and computers and all that.
Yes.
I temper that with my gut, my experience on this, like the Honda Civic we were talking about. The books say that it's going to take me about 160 days to sell that car. I know when I market that car, it will be maybe 3 weeks, if that long, because there's a very, very specific market that keeps an eye out for that. And since we sell cars nationwide, that car might be going to somebody in Southern California or Florida or Atlanta, wherever, because we ship cars nationwide all the time. So, yes, it's what the value of the car is, plus reconditioning, plus profit, and that's how it's determined.
That's really good to know. And thank you, Charlie. Looks like we're going to a break, and we'll be right back on the Boss Auto Show on 95.9 WATD.
So, you're in the market for a pre-owned vehicle? Buy it at Boss Auto. Boss Auto in Quincy has a fantastic selection of pre-owned vehicles, both luxury and economic. BMW, Audi, and Porsche, Honda, Toyota, and Nissan. They search nationally for the very best vehicles so you can drive home with the best value. And right now at Boss Auto, you can get behind the wheel of the pre-owned vehicle of your dreams with affordable finance rates, maybe even lower than 3. That's right, meaning just a few $100 a month. Visit bossautogroup.com, BOSautogroup.com, and check out their huge selection of pre-owned vehicles. They'll buy your car, take your trade, or even work on consignment. Boss Auto has an incredible lineup of domestic and foreign vehicles, even rare finds like Ferrari. Search online and see for yourself why you should book your next car buying experience with Boss Auto. They're open for appointments Monday through Friday, 10 to 7. Book yours at bossautogroup.com, bossautogroup.com.
I'm Gloris Liu, your moderator. Continuing our discussion with Charlie today on the Boss Auto Show. So, Charlie, thank you so much for sharing your experience on, how to assess a car and giving and sharing your professional experience in the trade-in market. And I'm interested in asking you more about your experience in the past. You mentioned when we started the show, there are many things have changed when you first step in the car business business. And right now I feel like there are so many things have changed. Can you share some of your perspective?
Sure.
What you meant?
Absolutely. Back a long time ago, what happened when a customer decided, whoops, I needed a new car or a new used car or whatever, they would go right to the newspaper and they look in the automotive section. Okay.
Wow, newspaper.
Newspaper, remember those? Yes. And in the newspaper, there was an automotive section, and the fancy dealers used to have display ads, but most dealers had something called 3-liners, 5-liners, or they were also called mug ads.
Wow.
With all that, it'd be an 88 Chevette, whatever it was, with a very basic description. And so what would happen is people would literally rip the pages out of the newspaper. They'd start at one end of their town and go to the different dealerships to experience the cars. And they'd test drive them, and the salesman would help them out and all that. And they'd get done, and they'd go home and sit around the table and be very confused, and ultimately make a decision and go back to the dealership Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday and buy the car.
So the customer has to do a lot of work.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so that's the way it was up until, we argue about this all the time. I'm going to go back about 7-8 years, okay? The advent of the internet and the car business, okay? And much like everything else, it started off kind of slow, and dealers didn't know how to use the internet and, what's a website and all that kind of stuff. And then it started evolving with 3 major players, autotrader.com, cars.com, and cargurus.com. And this is primarily for, I experienced it with the used cars, but there's a new car presence as well. So people would do research, okay? And to this day, they do a lot of research.
Yes.
It's been very, very carefully studied. So that trip on Saturday, okay, is now done at home on a laptop. And they still get confused because there's just so much out there. And then they pinpoint on if it's a new car, your make and model, and make an appointment with a local dealership. Or if it's a used car, same thing, make an appointment, come in. And they are, when the customer comes into the dealership, they are laser focused on a specific either model or a specific car. So the thing that I've been seeing where you have to be very, very careful is the selection of a vehicle, or not a specific vehicle, but a type of vehicle, should still be discussed with a professional.
Yes.
Okay. Even if you have, years of experience as a private person buying cars, bounce your idea off. We still want to know that, for example, this is a great example. Let's say a customer, I need all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. Okay.
That's a general description.
Right, yeah, because you're spending a lot of money to get that feature, okay? There are good reasons to have all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, very, very important. And you're going to be spending at least $3,000 more for that vehicle over a two-wheel drive version, and it's going to cost you more gas, it's more expensive to maintain, and it is more expensive to insure, so your total cost of ownership is going to go up. Now, well, oh my God, but I've got to get to work. Okay, so where do you work? Well, I go from Quincy to Brookline. Okay, guess what, Mr. Customer? You don't need an all-wheel drive, typically, okay? Well, yeah, but it's front-wheel drive. Yeah, I know that, and, what am I going to do? Said, and I've made this bet with customers before. It's a lot of fun. I'm going to save you a lot of money, but you're going to have to spend a little money, okay? Get yourself a set of snow tires, okay? Now, I'll tell you, all right, snow tires are going to work. I've gotten letters from customers, thank you notes. Oh, thank you, because it worked. Now, if you're going to go skiing in Maine, that's a different story. You need all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. You still should have snow tires. But there's the application. That's why you need to discuss with a professional what your needs are. And then we can go to wants and desires and all that. That's what happened. And it was still, to this day, you don't have to visit, you're on the internet, but again, it can be very, very confusing. Reach out to us, pick our brain. We'll do our best to let you know what the story is.
Yes, it's always good to ask a professional, especially when you are picking a car, you sometimes don't know what you need. And,
absolutely.
Asking a professional to decide and, assess the situation for you is always a good choice.
Absolutely.
And since, Charlie, you mentioned, the internet has influenced the car business a lot, and I also see lots of people sell their cars on different apps. What's your, insight on those apps like OfferUp or Let Go or even our marketplace on Facebook? Like, what are some risks of putting your car?
Right off the bat, if you're going to do that, make sure that your car is paid off and you have a title. Okay, if you do not, you really shouldn't be selling that car. Okay, because you don't have clear title to it. However, again, what I said prior to in this state, you have to guarantee the car that it's a safe motor vehicle and it'll pass an emissions test. Do that in a public place, all right? Do not, when you transfer a car, make sure that you keep your license plates absolutely 100%. Do not loan your license plates out. Do the transaction in a very public place. Police departments are a great place. They'll be more than happy to help out. Make sure that if you are selling the car, that you have payment in full and that the funds have been cleared. Then you can sign over the title. I've seen that happen before, and it is an ugly mess, so do be careful.
Right.
So.
You definitely see a lot of, examples of people trading cars, and, there are some great area in the car business, I assume. Like, are there lots of people where maybe you have witnessed some people try to cover up the accidents and get
absolutely. It's not often, but I see it from time to time. And again, if I've got a bad feeling about something, I'm going to dig deep, very, very deep. And again, it's not a Carfax thing. This is where, I'll have Paul come out with me. We'll look at the car together. If necessary, it will go down to our body shop. We've put cars on our frame machine before just to make sure. And then it's not a gotcha kind of thing, but we can make a mistake that's huge in the dollar value. And for the subsequent owner, we want to make sure it's a safe, reliable motor vehicle.
Yeah.
So yes,
it's good for both sides.
Absolutely. It's again fair.
And how about cars with damage? If the customer tell you, oh, my car have been into accidents, but I really want to trade in my car, can I still do that?
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, that Jeep that I was talking about, the front bumper had been damaged, right?
Oh.
And it's on the Carfax, and I don't care because it was repaired correctly. So the point being that buying a body damage, minor body damage, yes, it does devalue the car a little bit. It's not the end of the world, and that's a far cry from a major wreck or a salvage car or a flood car. Do not ever buy a salvage car or a flood car, anything like that. That's not something you really want to get into. But when we market a car, that's what I call an owie, if you will. We tell the customers right here, or if it's not on the Carfax, we know that the bumper was replaced on this because we can tell the bumper's been replaced on this. And again, we just want the customers to understand that, these cars are priced to market given what they are. We've already taken that into account. But, you come look at a car at Boss Auto, ask us the questions. I've gone out with customers with that, fancy device, that paint meter thing. Let's go take a look and explain how it works and all that. And let them use it themselves. Here, you can do it. Have fun. It's like, I'll watch you do it.
Yes.
That type of thing.
Of course. So just, relax. Your car will be
absolutely.
Trained.
Yes.
And approaching the end of our show, Charlie, you are such a professional in the car business. You've been in the car business this zone for 30 something years.
I don't want to count.
If I want to ask you a question now, you just name one most unforgettable story or lesson you learned in this area. What would it be? Difficult to ask.
Let me just think. The most. Oh, yeah, I remember this. Yeah, it was back in 2006, as a matter of fact. I had appraised a car. It wasn't a very fancy car or anything like that. As a matter of fact, I think it was a Chevy Trailblazer. We had done the deal. This is when I was up in New Hampshire. It was a 100,000-mile car, but still had some life on it. So all the paperwork was signed. He was coming to pick up his car in 2 days. Okay,
Wow.
so everything was ready and all that. So he comes in, and I was the used car manager at that. I wasn't the desk manager. And I, where's your car? Where's the trade-in? It's coming. Who's driving it? It's on the back of a tow truck. What? Why is it on the back of a tow truck? I blew the engine. Said, okay, well, that $3,500 just became $100. Well, you can't do that to me. Yes, I can. That was one of the worst examples. It's unfortunate because, again, fairness and all that. We finally worked it out and it was all taken care of. But that's one of the most horrible examples.
That's such a unique story.
Yeah.
And, Charlie, looking into the future, what's your very first goal? What are some your goals in the future, what you want to achieve in your professional life?
I'll tell you what it is. I want everybody to get back to normal. I want to get past COVID really bad, okay? Because everybody is very stressed right now. It's very difficult. I want everybody to take a breath and let's live again. Let's get past this and let's have some fun again.
Yes, I hope the same,
Absolutely.
Like in March, I remember like the restaurants are closing, and for a small business, it's very hard to survive. But we'll get through. Everything will be all right.
Absolutely.
And
Thank you
so much, Charlie, for coming in. And I'm sure the audience learned so much from you today. And we'll meet again next week at the exact same time. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Charlie.
Very welcome.